Beam is the runner at third, Slack at second. Oh, and Evans is at first. The 0-2 pitch, it gets up and over. Macy Beam coming in, the throw is in time. No! Initially in time, the catcher drops it. And Liberty has tied this game. Ball on the ropes, first time she's given up a run in this game. And Holly Thomas sends this one high in the air. Second baseman comes back on it. And
that's going to do it!
Liberty
that's
wins!
Gonna do
Liberty
it!
wins! Touch the base!
That's going to do it! The Lady Panthers win! The Lady Panthers win!
Welcome, Panther Nation, to this Lady Panthers softball regional quarterfinals recap. I'm Joe Roberts. Alongside me, play-by-play man Ross Norwood. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, let's talk some Lady Panthers softball and the cardiac kidness of it all on this last series in Baytown.
That was definitely a different series than the Navasota series that came before. Liberty running into a buzzsaw in the circle, Carson Fall, and really gave that Liberty offense fit, something we had not seen in the playoffs to this point.
Yeah, Carson Fall, the pitcher for Bridge City, she was, in a word, fire the entire series. Tough for the Lady Panthers to adjust to, and I personally think a lot of that attributed to the fact that they had scored 64 runs through the previous two series. They were swinging the bats like we haven't seen them swing in a while, and the pitching wasn't quite up to the level that Miss Fall brought to the table.
Carson Fall was the best pitcher Liberty has seen in the playoffs in two series that came before this one, and she had velocity that they had not seen, and that is always tough when you go from seeing something in the high 30s to 40s, and now you're in the mid 60s to higher 60s on the fastball, and somebody that also had a breaking pitch and that could work it, in and out and up and down. Definitely, you saw some swings from the Liberty batters that you have not seen this year, really.
So Liberty, in a 3-game series, drops game one 4-1, a big third inning and a fifth inning that accounted for the scores against Liberty. And that was the first time that Liberty had been behind in a series since the Lake Belton series the previous year in the regional championship game.
Both the series against Vider and the series against Navasota, they handled in 2 games. This had a different feel to it. This one, a Bridge City team they eliminated in the first round last year. But those games were probably the tightest games that Liberty played in up to that Lake Belton series. And Carson Fall, with another year under her belt, really looked like she had matured. Not that she had a terrible series last year, but dominating that game one, 14 strikeouts in game one, which is amazing to think of because this is a Lady Panther team that does not strike out.
Right.
And 14 strikeouts. One thing that you and I talked about at the beginning of the series was the defense for Bridge City and what we had seen prior to the games and their run-through drills that they do before the games, fielding practice. And it looked like there were some holes in that defense. When you strike out 14 batters, you really...
you don't get a sense of where the holes are, right?
You don't have that many opportunities for that defense to be exploited. You saw that a little bit in game 2, and you really saw it in game 3 when you also saw Carson's strikeout numbers go down in the next 2 games.
So game 1, the Lady Panthers drop, and the phrase that came to mind is good teams put themselves in a position great teams take advantage of the position that they put themselves in. And the Lady Panthers rebounded in game 2 with a 4-0 win. They could hardly touch Carson in game 1, and then they were starting to get a little bit of that timing, and it looked like the momentum had shifted back Liberty's way, and then game 3.
Interesting, Joe, that in game 1 and 2, the team that scored in the third inning would win those games. Bridge City scoring in the third inning of game 3. Fortunately for Liberty, they were able to end that little streak.
In the back of my mind, I was thinking that exact same thing. The third inning was going to be the inning, and then they scored. Oh no, what have we got ourselves into?
It was really tough because Liberty had a lot of opportunities. They stranded 7 base runners in game 3. And they had a number of innings in which they would have runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs, and they couldn't get through to Carson Fall. And you kept thinking, the more and more these add up, these opportunities come and they go, you're playing with fire there.
Okay, so you made a comment at some point during the game 3, and I think it was the 5th or the 6th inning, and Bridge City had started to get a little something going offensively. They got a few runners on the bases, and you said, man, it seems like the wheels are starting to fall off for the Lady Panthers, and then the defense kind of clicked, and they were able to get out of that without giving up any runs, still trailing 1-0, and here we are, moving into the bottom of the 7th inning and literally 3 outs away from packing up for the summer.
After the first inning, Liberty had base runners in every inning. In the 7th inning, things really started getting interesting. They were eventually able to load the bases. And when they did that, they really put some pressure on that defense that we had talked about being shaky. And the defense was not able to sustain what they had through the series, and Liberty was able to break through with those 2 runs.
So let's talk about that bottom of the 7th. Starts with a strikeout to Breezy. Freshman, you don't really want to hang your hat on a freshman, right? She had a phenomenal series defensively, made some great plays. She strikes out, and then we get Macy Beam, who's been moved to the bottom of the order in the roster shakeup on game 2, or not the roster shakeup, the lineup shakeup in game 2, which really was great for her. And she's able to lay just a pretty little slap bunt combo down, and her speed. She beats it out at first.
And that was what got everything running. You had Reese and Bailey who came in after her, and then you had the bases loaded, and that was kind of when
and we've got one of the better hitters in the lineup showing up, Holly Thomas, bases loaded, and it almost felt like a movie, right? Has this been scripted? So walk us through this. Still trailing 1-0. Macy Beams on third. Bailey Slacks on second. Reese Evans is on first.
One of the adjustments that you see that may not translate into the hit column were balls that were swings and misses in game 1 became foul balls, and these at-bats got extended. Reese Evans had quite a few extended bats where she would get down in the count 0-2 or 1-2 and end up with a full count, working her way back into the count, fouling off 4, 5, 6 pitches, and you could see the frustration coming through with Carson because it went from, oh, well, these were all swings and misses to now they're getting a piece of them. Mm-hmm. I've got to throw another pitch to this very dangerous hitter. And Reese had one of those at-bats in the bottom of the 7th inning that resulted in her getting a base hit. And that was what ended up with Reese on first, Bailey on second, and Macy on third.
Okay, so now we've got a situation. Holly Thomas is at bat, and you can kind of feel that the pitcher and the defense for Bridge City are starting to feel a bit of pressure here. And we've got a very high pitch. I think it was a rise ball. And Dosh, the catcher for Bridge City, is not able to handle it. And it gets by her. And Macy, I don't know if she took a late start, a late jump, or whatever it was. At any rate, there was a bit of a hesitation. She goes, and the catcher gets the ball back to Carson Fall, who's waiting on Macy.
Has the glove down, has the tag ready. Really nothing Macy can do to avoid it. She has to slide there and slides right into the glove of Carson Fall and initially is called out, but the ball comes loose and ultimately is safe, and there is the tie run. That was kind of the thing Liberty had really been trying to get across, that first run. And when that first run came across, you're like, okay, now I feel a lot better about this. Worst case scenario, we get another inning.
Holly Thomas still at bat, and I think it was the next pitch. She takes one and pops it up, and in my heart, it was a shallow infield. It went out of the infield a little bit. The second baseman had to come off the quote-unquote dirt, the carpet, and thinking, okay, well, here's an out. So, all right, we at least get this extra inning. And then...
Well, one of the things that we saw, we had the opportunity to be there early enough to see them taking fungos. And that seemed to be an Achilles heel, high fly balls or pop-ups and getting under them. She had to backpedal, the second baseman did, and just lost track of it. That ball would have been too shallow for a tag, for Bailey to tag, had it been caught. And then the ball drops, and that was pretty much it.
Bailey Slack Supermans into the home plate, and that's all she wrote. Lady Panthers win and extend their season for another week, and now we're sitting as the regional quarterfinal champions and heading into the regional semifinals.
And this is going to be a tough series, or not tough series for Liberty. It's going to be one game on Friday. And, you know, if you think about it, if the Bridge City series had been one game, the Liberty Lady Panthers season would be over. And you always hate to see that. You hate to see that one game, you know, best of three series is a little better because, you know, you have one bad game, you can regroup. Mm-hmm. You don't have any margin for error, but you do have the opportunity. In this case, one bad game and their season is over. And, you know, I wanted to make a couple of comments, kind of comparing last series to this series. You said it at the top of this. 64 runs scored in the Navasota series by the Lady Panthers. They scored 6 runs. They were held to 6 runs, which seems unfathomable with this offense and how potent they are. They had 12 extra base hits. In the series against Navasota, they had 2 in the series against Bridge City. So Carson Fall, you can't say enough about her performance in this series, and she came very close to getting Bridge City through the series. On the flip side, Camden Chandler had another good series in the circle. Camden had 21 total innings pitched. She did give up 5 runs, 4 of those coming in game 1. And 1 coming in game 3. She gave up 16 hits in 21 innings, but she did strike out 21.
That's pretty good.
You know, the game 1 loss, the first time that Liberty had been shut out in the playoffs, the first loss in the playoffs, the 26 strikeouts. They did not strike out at all in the Navasota series. They struck out 26 times in this series, and that's tough. They had 5 errors. And of those 5, 2 contributed directly to runs.
All right, Ross. Coming up, your Liberty Lady Panthers in a 1-game winner-take-all regional semifinal game against the Taylor Ducks, and we will be there. I'm Joe Roberts with Ross Norwood for Liberty Panthers Sports Network. We'll see you in a bit.